Most people spend their entire lives waiting for a savior, only to realize on their deathbed that the only person who could have saved them was the very one holding the knife. Look at your life right now. Look at the gap between where you are and where you know you could be. It is vast, isn't it? It is a canyon filled with broken promises, unfinished projects, and the silent, suffocating weight of potential that has started to rot. You tell yourself that the world is difficult. You blame the economy, your upbringing, your boss, or simply bad luck. You craft elaborate stories to explain why you aren't winning. But deep down, in the quiet moments before you fall asleep, you know the truth. The world isn't stopping you. You are stopping you. You are currently losing the most important battle of human existence. It is not a battle for money or fame or status. It is the battle for command over your own mind. And right now, the enemy is winning. This audiobook is not here to comfort you. It is not here to tell you that you are perfect just the way you are, or that everything will work out if you just think positive thoughts. Those are lies designed to keep you weak. This audiobook is a declaration of war. We are here to address a specific, brutal reality. There is a traitor living in your head. It is the voice that whispers, "Do it tomorrow." It is the impulse that reaches for the junk food when you are on a diet. It is the sudden, paralyzing fear that strikes the moment you try to step out of your comfort zone. This traitor knows your insecurities better than anyone else, because it is you.
It knows exactly what to say to make you surrender. You have spent years negotiating with this internal enemy. You have tried to bargain with your laziness. You have tried to reason with your fear. You have tried to compromise with your lack of discipline. And every single time, the negotiation fails. You cannot negotiate with a terrorist, and you cannot negotiate with the part of your brain that wants to keep you small. You must defeat it. Over the course of this audio experience, we are going to dismantle the mechanisms of your self-sabotage. We are going to shine a light on the dark corners of your psychology where your excuses hide. We will move from understanding the biology of resistance to mastering the art of discipline. We will strip away the identity of the victim and forge the identity of a commander. This is a manual for a psychological coup d'etat. We are going to overthrow the weak, fearful version of you that is currently sitting on the throne, and we are going to install a sovereign mind. But before we arm you for this battle, a brief request. If you are already feeling the weight of these words, if you are ready to stop drifting and start fighting, please like this video and subscribe to the premier audiobooks. Your support signals that you are part of the minority who refuses to settle for mediocrity. If you are watching till now, consider a like and subscribe to join our ranks. Now, take a breath. Stop looking for an exit. Stop looking for a shortcut. There is no easy way out of this, but there is a way through. The life you want, the body, the bank account, the relationships, the peace of mind is waiting for you on the other side of this conflict. But you cannot walk there. You have to fight your way there. The peace talks are over. The diplomacy has failed. It is time to stop being a casualty in your own life and start being the conqueror. Let the war begin. Chapter 1. The Enemy in the Mirror. Who is sabotaging you? Take a moment to really answer that question. If I asked you to list the reasons why you are not where you want to be in life, what would you say? Most people have a list ready. They would say they don't have enough time. They would say they don't have the right connections. They would blame the economy or the political landscape or the way their parents raised them. They would point to a bad boss, a difficult spouse, or a lack of natural talent. The list is endless, and on the surface, it seems logical. It seems real, but it is a lie. It is a carefully constructed fiction designed to protect your ego from a devastating truth. The truth is this: the world is not in your way. You are in your way. You are the architect of your own misfortune. You are the wall you keep running into. You are the chain that holds you back. And until you accept this, until you feel the weight of it in your gut, You will never change. You will stay exactly where you are, trapped in a loop of wishing and waiting, slowly decaying while the clock runs out. Welcome to the battlefield. The first step in winning this war is identifying the enemy, and the enemy has your face.
The Great Deception. Human beings are masters of deception, but the person we lie to the most is ourselves. We have an incredible capacity to rationalize our failures. We treat our lives like a court case where we are both the defendant and the judge, and we always rule in our own favor. When you procrastinate on a project, you don't say, "I am being lazy and undisciplined." You say, "I work better under pressure," or "I need to do more research first." When you skip the gym, you don't say, "I am choosing comfort over health." You say, "I had a long day," or "I'll go twice as hard tomorrow." When you snap at a loved one, you don't say, "I lack emotional control." You say, "They provoked me." Do you see the pattern? In every scenario, the cause of the problem is placed outside of you. It is always the circumstance, the timing, or the other person. You cast yourself as the victim of the story. And being the victim feels good. It feels safe. If the problem is outside of you, then the solution is outside of you too. It means you don't have to change, the world has to change. And since you can't control the world, you are off the hook. You can sit back, complain, and wait for the universe to align in your favor. This mindset is the ultimate form of self-sabotage. It is a psychological narcotic. It numbs the pain of mediocrity, but it also kills the drive for greatness. If you want to win the war against yourself, you must destroy the victim narrative. You have to look at your life, the messy parts, the failures, the missed opportunities, and admit that you held the pen.
You wrote those chapters. This is not about self-hatred. This is about empowerment. Because if you are the one who broke your life, you are the only one who can fix it. If the obstacle is you, then you have the power to remove it. But as long as you point the finger outward, you are powerless. The Civil War Within. To understand why you struggle, you must understand that you are not a single unified entity. You are a divided house. There is a civil war raging inside your psyche, and it has been fighting since the day you gained consciousness. On one side, there is the you that wants to be great. This is the version of you that buys the books, sets the goals, and dreams of a better future. This version is ambitious, disciplined, and visionary. It knows what you are capable of. It wants to wake up early, eat clean, build wealth, and leave a legacy. But there is another version. The shadow self. The shadow self is the primal, ancient part of your brain that cares only about three things: safety, comfort, and immediate gratification. It doesn't care about your 10-year plan. It doesn't care about your legacy. It wants the donut. It wants the extra hour of sleep. It wants to scroll through social media for 3 hours because it's easy and numbing. The shadow self is not evil, but it is dangerous. It is designed to keep you alive, not to make you legendary. In the prehistoric world, conserving energy and avoiding risk kept you safe from predators. But in the modern world, those same instincts keep you safe from success. Every time you set a goal, you are declaring war on your shadow self. You are threatening its comfort.
And it will fight back. It will fight back with fatigue. It will fight back with distraction. It will fight back with doubt. Have you ever noticed that the moment you decide to change your life, resistance appears? You decide to write a book, and suddenly your house needs to be cleaned. You decide to start a business, and suddenly you are plagued by imposter syndrome. You decide to get fit, and suddenly you feel an overwhelming exhaustion. That is not a coincidence. That is the shadow self deploying its weapons. It knows your weaknesses better than anyone. It knows exactly which button to push to make you stumble.
It knows that if it whispers, "You've worked hard, you deserve a break," you will likely fold. The mistake most people make is thinking that this resistance will go away. They think that one day they will wake up and feel like doing the hard work. They are waiting for the shadow self to surrender. It never will. The resistance is permanent. The part of you that wants to be lazy will never die. You cannot kill it, but you can conquer it. You can learn to hear its voice and disobey it. You can learn to recognize the negotiation tactics of your own mind and refuse to sit at the table. The mirror test. We need to make this practical. We need to bring this concept out of the abstract and into your reality. I want you to imagine standing in front of a mirror. You are looking at your reflection. What do you see? Most of us look in the mirror and see our intentions. We see the person we mean to be. We forgive the extra weight because we plan to start a diet. We forgive the empty bank account because we plan to work harder. We judge ourselves by our potential, but the world judges you by your actions, and reality judges you by your results. To win this war, you must learn to look in the mirror and see the cold, hard facts. You have to strip away the narrative and look at the data. If you say you value health, but you are overweight and lethargic, the mirror says you are a liar. If you say you value financial freedom, but you spend every dollar you earn on entertainment, the mirror says you are a liar. If you say you value your family, but you give them the scraps of your energy after a day of meaningless distraction, the mirror says you are a liar. This is painful to hear, I know. It stings. Your instinct right now might be to turn this audio off. Your shadow self is screaming, "This is too harsh. Who is he to judge me? He doesn't know my story." I don't need to know your story. The results are the story. This brutal honesty is the only way to break the spell. You have to stop coddling yourself. You have to stop accepting your own excuses. You have to look at the enemy in the mirror and acknowledge that this is the person ruining your life. It's not your boss. It's the version of you that doesn't speak up and demand respect or leave to find a better opportunity. It's not the economy. It's the version of you that refuses to learn new skills and adapt to the market. It's not your ex-partner. It's the version of you that ignored the red flags and tolerated disrespect because you were afraid to be alone.
When you take radical responsibility for everything in your life, something magical happens. You stop being the passenger. You become the driver. If you are the problem, then you are the solution. That is the most liberating realization you can ever have. It means you don't have to wait for a law to change or a check to arrive or a person to save you. You can start fixing it right now. The cost of the war. Why do so few people do this? Why do the majority of people live and die in the grip of the shadow self? Because fighting is hard and surrender is easy. Winning the war against yourself requires a level of vigilance that is exhausting. It means watching your thoughts like a hawk. It means denying your impulses 10, 20, 50 times a day. It means choosing the difficult path when the easy path is right there, bathed in golden light. Most people are not willing to pay that price. They would rather be comfortable and miserable than uncomfortable and growing. They choose the slow, dull pain of regret over the sharp, acute pain of discipline. But let's talk about the cost of not fighting. If you do not defeat the enemy in the mirror, he will consume you. He will eat your potential. He will waste your time. He will ensure that you go to your grave with your best work still inside you. Imagine the version of you that could exist. Imagine the version of you that won every internal battle. The version that woke up when the alarm went off. The version that said no to the distraction. The version that pushed through the fear. What does that person look like? What have they built? Who have they impacted?
How do they walk into a room? That person exists. They are trapped inside you, encased in layers of fear, laziness, and rationalization. The shadow self is the jailer. Every day that you do not fight, is a day you leave that potential version of you to rot in the cell. And that is a tragedy. It is a tragedy for you, and it is a tragedy for the world, because we are deprived of the gifts you are meant to give. The declaration. So, how do we begin? How do we fire the first shot in this war? We begin with a declaration. You must draw a line in the sand. You must decide that the era of negotiation is over. You are no longer friends with your weakness. You are no longer an ally to your excuses. You have to separate yourself from the voice in your head. When that voice says, "I can't do this," you must learn to reply, "That is an opinion, not a fact." When that voice says, "Let's do it later," you must reply, "No, we do it now." You are treating your mind like a rebellious child that has been allowed to run the household. The house is a mess, the finances are in ruin, and the structure is crumbling. It is time for the parent to come home. It is time to reestablish authority. This week, your only goal is observation. I want you to watch the enemy. Watch how he operates. Notice the specific triggers that cause you to spiral. Notice the lies you tell yourself to justify bad behavior. Don't judge it yet. Just watch it. Shine a light on it. Oh, look.
There I am, blaming the traffic for my lateness when I actually left 10 minutes late. Look, there I am pretending to work while I'm actually scrolling because I'm afraid this task is too hard. Look, there I am, eating the junk food because I feel stressed and I want to be soothed. See the enemy, acknowledge him, and then defy him. Chapter 2. The Anatomy of Self-Sabotage. Why do you burn down the house just as you finish building it? Think about the last time you were on a winning streak. Maybe you were finally sticking to your diet for 2 weeks straight. Maybe you were saving money and the balance in your account was finally growing. Maybe your relationship was peaceful, loving, and drama-free. And then, out of nowhere, you broke it. You binge ate an entire pizza on a Tuesday night for no reason. You spent $500 on something you didn't need. You picked a fight with your partner over a dirty dish just to feel the friction. Why? Why do we destroy the very things we say we want? Why does the human mind seem to have a self-destruct button that gets pressed the moment things start going well? This is the riddle of self-sabotage. And until you solve it, you will be trapped in the cycle of almost. You will almost get in shape. You will almost build the business. You will almost be happy. But you will never actually arrive. To win the war against yourself, you have to stop looking at self-sabotage as a mysterious curse or a lack of willpower. You have to look at it like a mechanic looking at an engine. You need to understand the anatomy of the machine. You need to know which wires are crossed and why your system is programmed to fail. The biological imperative. The first thing you must understand is that your brain does not care about your success. I will repeat that because it goes against everything you have been told. Your brain does not care about your career, your six-pack abs, your spiritual enlightenment, or your happiness. Your brain has one job: survival. It is an ancient biological computer designed over millions of years to keep you alive long enough to reproduce. And in the harsh environment of our ancestors, survival depended on two things: conserving energy and avoiding risk. Change requires energy. Growth requires risk. Therefore, to your primitive brain, success looks like a threat. When you try to change your life, when you try to wake up at 4 a.m. or start a new career or approach a stranger, your brain's alarm system goes off. It screams, "This is new, this is unknown, this is dangerous, go back to the cave." This is why self-sabotage feels so physical. It's why you feel a sudden wave of fatigue when you sit down to work. It's why you feel a knot of anxiety in your stomach when you think about the gym. It is not that you are lazy, it is that your biology is trying to save you from the danger of burning calories or facing the unknown. Self-sabotage is not a character flaw, it is a safety mechanism. It is your brain trying to pull you back to the baseline, the thermostat of your life. Let's look at this through the lens of homeostasis. Your body has a way of regulating temperature.
If you get too hot, you sweat to cool down. If you get too cold, you shiver to warm up. Your body is always fighting to stay at 98.6 degrees. Your psychology works the exact same way. You have an internal thermostat for success, love, and happiness. This is your baseline. It is the level of goodness you are comfortable with. If your internal thermostat is set to struggle, and you suddenly start succeeding, your subconscious mind panics. You are running too hot. You are exceeding your baseline. So, the air conditioning kicks on. You do something stupid to cool yourself down. You miss a deadline. You oversleep. You create drama. You sabotage the success to bring yourself back down to the level of struggle you are used to. This explains why lottery winners often go bankrupt within a few years. Their bank account grew, but their internal thermostat remained set at poverty. They subconsciously destroyed the wealth to return to the environment where they felt safe and familiar. This explains why people who grew up in chaotic households often sabotage peaceful relationships. Peace feels foreign to them. Chaos feels like home. So when things get too quiet, they throw a grenade into the room just to feel normal again. You must identify where your thermostat is set. Look at your life. What is the level of income you seem to hover around no matter how hard you work? What is the weight you always drift back to? That is your setting, and you cannot change your results permanently until you reset the thermostat. The 4 pillars of the sabotage machine. Now that we understand the biological intent, let's look at the specific tools your mind uses to execute the sabotage. There are 4 main pillars of this machine. 1. Procrastination, the art of emotional evacuation. We often mistake procrastination for laziness, but they are not the same thing. Laziness is the unwillingness to act. Procrastination is the active avoidance of negative emotion. You don't delay the work because the work is hard. You delay the work because the work makes you feel something you don't want to feel. Maybe it makes you feel incompetent. Maybe it makes you feel bored. Maybe it makes you feel overwhelmed. Procrastination is an emotional regulation strategy. Your brain looks at the task, predicts that it will cause stress, and immediately steers you towards something that provides relief. That is why you suddenly feel the urge to clean your kitchen or organize your desktop files. Your brain is saying, here is a task we can win at. Here is a task that feels safe. You are not avoiding the action. You are avoiding the feeling. But in doing so, you are borrowing comfort from your future self. And the interest rate on that loan is predatory. 2. Perfectionism, the shield of the coward. Perfectionism is the most glamorous form of self-sabotage. We wear it like a badge of honor in job interviews. Oh, my biggest weakness is that I care too much. I'm a perfectionist. Nonsense. Perfectionism is not about high standards. It is about fear. Perfectionism is a defense mechanism designed to protect you from judgment. The logic of the subconscious goes like this. If I cannot do it perfectly, I will not do it at all. If I don't do it, I can't be judged. If I can't be judged, I am safe. The perfectionist spends months planning the business, but never launches it. They spend years writing the first chapter of the book, but never finish it. They're terrified of the messy, imperfect reality of doing the work. They tell themselves they're waiting for the right moment. They are waiting for the quality to match their taste. But in reality, they are hiding. They are sabotaging their own progress because they would rather remain a potential genius than risk being a proven failure. 3. Imposter syndrome, the fraud police. The moment you step into a new level of growth, a voice in your head will inevitably whisper, "Who do you think you are?" This is imposter syndrome. It is the suspicion that you are fraud and that at any moment everyone is going to find out. This is a classic sabotage tactic. If you believe you don't belong in the room, you will subconsciously act in ways that get you kicked out of the room. You will stay silent in meetings, you will downplay your achievements, you will avoid eye contact with the leaders. You will make yourself small until reality reflects your insecurity. The anatomy of this is simple. It is your identity lagging behind your reality. You have achieved the new role, but your internal self-image is still the old version of you. The sabotage is the friction between who you are and who you think you are. 4. Rationalization, the inner lawyer. This is the most dangerous part of the anatomy because it is the most intelligent. Your brain is brilliant at coming up with logical-sounding reasons to do the wrong thing. It doesn't say, let's ruin our diet. It says, you had a really stressful day at work and you need the dopamine hit to reset your cortisol levels so you can be productive tomorrow. One cheat meal is actually strategic. It sounds so smart.
It sounds so reasonable, but it is a lie. The inner lawyer is always hired by the shadow self to defend the status quo. It can justify skipping the workout, sending the angry text, or buying the liability. It uses logic to dismantle your discipline. It weaponizes your own intelligence against you. Dismantling the machine. So we have this complex, ancient biological machine running 24/7, designed to keep us safe, comfortable, and stagnant. How do we dismantle it? You cannot smash the machine. Remember, this is your survival instinct. You need it to breathe and keep your heart beating. You cannot destroy it, but you can override it. Step 1. The pause. Self-sabotage happens on autopilot. It is a reaction, not a choice. The only way to break a reaction is to insert a pause. When you feel the urge to procrastinate, or the sudden wave of anxiety, or the desire to quit, freeze. Do not act. Just stop. Take 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, you are stepping out of the programming. You are moving from the passenger seat to the driver's seat. You are creating a gap between the stimulus, the stress, and the response, the sabotage. Step 2. Label the mechanism. In that pause, call it out by name. Say it out loud if you have to. This is not hunger. This is anxiety. This is not waiting for quality. This is perfectionism hiding my fear. This is not a logical reason to quit. This is my inner lawyer trying to negotiate a surrender. When you name the demon, you strip it of its power. You turn it from a terrifying, nebulous feeling into a mechanical glitch. You realize that you are not scared. Your biology is scared. And you are not your biology. You are the commander of it. Step 3. The micro-commitment. Self-sabotage thrives on the overwhelming size of the task. Your brain sees write a book and shuts down. It sees lose 50 pounds and panics. To bypass the alarm system, you must make the threat smaller. Do not focus on the marathon. Focus on putting on your shoes. Tell your brain, I am not going to work for 3 hours. I am just going to open the laptop and type 1 sentence. If I want to stop after that, I can. You are tricking the safety mechanism. You are slipping under the radar. Once you start, the fear dissipates. The hardest part of the war is the first step out of the trench, rewiring the thermostat. Finally, you must address the thermostat. You have to get comfortable with a new level of good. When things start going well and you feel that familiar itch to blow it up, that is the signal that you are hitting your upper limit. That is the moment of truth. Instead of retreating, lean into the discomfort of success. It sounds strange to say that success is uncomfortable, but it is. Happiness can feel terrifying if you are used to misery. Stand in the center of that good feeling and refuse to move. Refuse to pick the fight. Refuse to eat the cake. Refuse to self-destruct. Tell yourself, this is my new normal. I belong here. I am safe here. You have to prove to your nervous system that you can survive being happy. You have to prove that you can survive being wealthy. You have to prove that you can survive being loved. The more time you spend at this new temperature,
the more your thermostat will adjust.
Eventually, success will become your baseline, and once that happens, self-sabotage disappears. Not because you fought it, but because you outgrew the version of you that needed it. Chapter 3. The Battlefield of the Mind. If I could pull a transcript of every thought that went through your head in the last 24 hours and broadcast it on a screen for the world to see, would you be proud? Or would you be committed to an asylum? For most people, the inside of their mind is a chaotic, abusive, and terrifying place. It is a ceaseless storm of anxiety, judgment, replay loops of past mistakes, and catastrophic predictions about the future. We like to think that we are rational, logical beings. We like to think that we are in control. But the reality is that for the vast majority of your waking life, you are not the master of your mind, you are its hostage. You wake up and the voice starts. It tells you that you are tired. It reminds you of the awkward thing you said 3 years ago. It creates fake arguments with people who aren't even in the room. It lists every possible way your day could go wrong. And you listen. You listen to this voice as if it were the absolute truth. You treat every thought that flashes across your consciousness as a fact. And because you believe the thoughts, you feel the emotions they generate. You feel the stress, the anger, the sadness, and the fear. You are being puppeted by a narrator that doesn't know what it's talking about. Welcome to the battlefield of the mind. This is where the war is truly won or lost.
You can have all the discipline in the world, you can have the perfect strategy, but if your internal narrative is working against you, you will fail. To win the war against yourself, you must stage a coup. You must overthrow the tyrannical narrator in your head and take control of the station. The myth of I am thinking. The first step in cognitive mastery is a realization that sounds simple but changes everything. You are not your thoughts. Most of us identify with the voice in our head. We think, I am angry, or I am worried. We believe that the voice is us, but if you are the one hearing the voice, who is the one listening? If you can observe a thought, if you can say, wow, that's a weird thought, then you cannot be the thought. You are the observer. You are the consciousness behind the noise. Think of your mind like a busy highway. Thoughts are the cars driving by. Some are fast, some are slow. Some are dangerous and some are beautiful. Most people spend their lives standing in the middle of the highway, trying to chase every single car. They grab onto a negative thought and ride it for miles, letting it drag them into a ditch. Then they jump onto an anxious thought and let it drive them off a cliff. They are exhausted because they are trying to traffic control 1 million moving vehicles. The master of the mind does not stand on the highway. He stands on the bridge above it. He watches the cars go by. He sees the angry thought, acknowledging its presence, but he doesn't get in the car. He lets it pass. This is the power of the observer.
When you separate yourself from your thoughts, you gain the ability to choose which ones to engage with. You stop being a slave to the stream of consciousness and start becoming its editor. The propaganda machine. Why is the voice in your head so negative? Why doesn't it naturally tell you how great you are and how everything is going to work out? Once again, we have to look at our evolutionary hardware. Your brain is not designed for happiness. It is designed for survival. And in terms of survival, negative information is infinitely more valuable than positive information. If you were a caveman and you hear a rustle in the bushes, assuming it's a tiger keeps you alive. Assuming it's the wind might get you killed. The brain that evolved to scan for danger, problems, and worst-case scenarios is the brain that survived to pass on its genes. You are the descendant of the most paranoid, anxious humans who ever lived. This is why you have a negativity bias. Your mind acts like a propaganda machine, constantly churning out threat assessments. It fixates on the one critical comment you received and ignores the 10 compliments. It fixates on the one thing that went wrong in your day and forgets the 100 things that went right. It hallucinates disasters that haven't happened yet.
If you are unaware of this bias, you will believe the propaganda. You will walk around believing that the world is hostile, that you are inadequate, and that failure is inevitable. You will let a biological glitch dictate your reality. You must view your unmonitored mind as a hostile witness. It is lying to you. It is exaggerating the danger and minimizing your strength. Do not trust the default setting.
Weaponizing the imagination. Imagination is the greatest gift human beings possess. It is the ability to see things that do not yet exist. It is the engine of all creation, art, and innovation. But in the hands of an undisciplined mind, imagination becomes a weapon of mass destruction. What is worry? Worry is simply imagination used poorly. Worry is the act of visualizing a future you do not want. When you stress about a presentation, you are using your mental energy to construct a vivid, high-definition movie of yourself failing. You see the audience looking bored. You hear yourself stuttering. You feel the humiliation. You run this movie in your head over and over again, perfecting every detail of your own demise. And because your brain struggles to differentiate between vivid visualization and reality, your body reacts as if it is actually happening. Your palms sweat, your heart races, your cortisol spikes. You are chemically punishing yourself for a failure that hasn't even occurred. You are using your own superweapon against yourself. To win the war, you must reclaim your imagination. You must stop visualizing the crash and start visualizing the landing. This is not about positive thinking or wishful thinking. It is about tactical preparation. If you are going to spend energy imagining the future, why would you choose to imagine the one where you lose? It takes the exact same amount of mental caloric energy to imagine a victory as it does to imagine a defeat. Flip the script. Force your brain to construct the scenario where you win. See the handshake, hear the applause, feel the pride. Not because it guarantees the outcome, but because it primes your nervous system for confidence rather than cowardice.
The art of cognitive reframing. You cannot always control the first thought that pops into your head. That is the automatic discharge of the brain. But you have absolute control over the second thought. The first thought is the stimulus. The second thought is the interpretation. This is where the concept of reframing comes in. Reframing is the ability to take a set of facts and change the narrative wrapper around them. Let's say you lose your biggest client. The automatic mind says, "This is a disaster. I am a failure. I'm going to go broke. I'll never recover from this." Result: panic, depression, paralysis. The sovereign mind says, "This is a wake-up call. That client was draining 80% of my time for 20% of my revenue. Now I have the space to find better clients. This is the push I needed to upgrade my business model." Result: focus, drive, action. The facts are the same in both scenarios. The client is gone. But the narrative is different. And the narrative determines your next move. Everything in your life is neutral until you label it. Stress is neutral. Pain is neutral. Failure is neutral. You attach the meaning. "I have to go to the gym" is a narrative of slavery. "I get to go to the gym" is a narrative of gratitude. "This problem is unfair" is a narrative of victimhood. "This problem is a training ground" is a narrative of the warrior. You are the screenwriter of your own life. If the current scene sucks, it's because you are writing a tragedy. Rewrite it. Look at the obstacle and ask yourself, how can I use this? How is this actually the best thing that could have happened to me?
If you look for the advantage, you will find it. If you look for the excuse, you will find that too. Controlling the inputs. We talk a lot about diet in terms of the body. We obsess over calories, macros, and organic ingredients because we know that you are what you eat. But we rarely think about the mental diet. You are what you consume.
If you shovel garbage into your mouth, your body gets sick. If you shovel garbage into your mind, your spirit gets sick. Look at your inputs. What are you reading? What are you watching? Who are you listening to? If you start your day by scrolling through social media, you are feeding your mind a breakfast of comparison, envy, and outrage. You are literally training your brain to be reactive and dissatisfied before you even get out of bed. If you watch the 24-hour news cycle, you are feeding your mind fear and division. If you hang around people who gossip and complain, you are breathing in secondhand smoke that poisons your attitude. You cannot expect to have a high-performance mind if you feed it low-performance fuel. You need to fortify the perimeter of your mind. You need to be ruthless about what gets in. Read things that challenge you. Listen to things that educate you. Surround yourself with people who are playing a bigger game than you are. The war is often won by cutting off the enemy's supply lines. Cut off the supply of negativity. Starve the fear. Feed the focus. The 24-hour challenge. I want to give you a tactical assignment for the battlefield. For the next 24 hours, I want you to treat your mind like a restricted area. You are the security guard at the gate.
Every thought that tries to enter must show ID. When a negative thought approaches, you're not good enough. This is too hard. They probably hate you. I want you to stop it at the gate. Ask it, is this true? Is this helpful? Does this come from the person I want to be? If the answer is no, reject it. Literally say to yourself, I reject that thought. And then deliberately replace it with a thought that serves the mission. I reject the thought that I am too tired. I accept the thought that I have a reserve tank of energy I haven't tapped into yet. It will be exhausting at first. You will realize just how negative your default setting is. You will feel like you are fighting a swarm of bees. But this is the work. This is the rep. Every time you catch a negative thought and replace it, you are doing a bicep curl for your brain. You are physically rewiring the neural pathways. Chapter 4. Breaking the Chains of Impulse. You think you are free, but let's test that theory. Can you sit in a room alone with no phone, no television, and no food for 1 hour without feeling an itch in your brain? Can you walk past your favorite junk food when you are hungry without your hand twitching toward it? Can you feel a surge of anger without immediately snapping at the person who provoked you? If the answer is no, you are not free. You are a slave. You are a slave to your biochemistry. You are a puppet dancing on the strings of dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline. You might wear the clothes of a free adult, but your brain is operating like a toddler who cannot hear the word no. This is where the war gets physical. In the previous chapters, we talked about philosophy and mindset. Now we are talking about the trenches. We are talking about that split second where you have to decide between what you want right now and what you need for your future. That split second is the difference between a life of mediocrity and a life of mastery. Most people lose the war right here. They have the goal, they have the plan, but the moment the impulse strikes, they fold. They sell their dreams for a cheap hit of dopamine. It is time to break the chains. The dopamine dealer. To defeat the impulse, you must understand the currency of the enemy. That currency is dopamine. We often hear about dopamine in the context of drug addiction, but the reality is that we are all addicts. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of desire. It is the chemical that says, do that again. In the natural world, dopamine was a reward for survival behaviors. You found berries? Dopamine. You found a mate? Dopamine. It was hard-earned. But in the modern world, the market is flooded. You carry a dopamine dispenser in your pocket called a smartphone. You have access to hyper-palatable foods engineered by scientists to hijack your taste buds. You have entertainment on demand. You are swimming in a sea of unearned pleasure. The result is that your baseline for stimulation is broken. You have become fragile. You cannot tolerate boredom.
You cannot tolerate a moment of silence. You cannot tolerate the slight discomfort of hunger or effort. When you sit down to do deep work, your brain screams, "This is boring. Check your email. Check the news." When you're on a diet, your brain screams, "This is hard. Eat the sugar." This is not just a thought. It is a chemical withdrawal. Your brain is a junkie looking for a fix, and like any junkie, it will lie, cheat, and steal to get it. Winning the war against yourself means entering a state of detox. It means voluntarily cutting off the supply of cheap thrills so that you can reset your sensitivity to effort. You have to stop trading your empire for a crumb of comfort. The sacred gap. There is a quote often attributed to Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the Nazi concentration camps. He said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." This is the most important tactical concept you will ever learn. The gap. The stimulus is the trigger. The rude comment, the vibration of the phone, the smell of the pizza. The response is what you do. You yell back, you pick up the phone, you eat the pizza. For most people, the stimulus and the response are fused together. They happen instantly. Stimulus, anger. Response, yell. Stimulus, stress. Response, smoke. There is no gap. They are running on reflex. They are effectively animals reacting to their environment. The warrior creates a gap. When the impulse hits, the warrior freezes time. He feels the anger rising in his chest, hot and fast, but he does not speak. He waits. He widens the gap. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. In that silence, he regains his higher faculties.
He engages his prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic and long-term planning. He asks, if I say this, will it help me or hurt me? He realizes that yelling will only satisfy his ego for a moment, but it will damage the relationship for a week. So, he chooses a different response. He chooses silence or a calm question. This is true power. Power is not controlling others. Power is controlling your own reaction to others. The next time you feel an impulse, I want you to visualize a physical wedge. Jam that wedge between the trigger and your action. Pry them apart. Breathe into the space. The longer you can hold that gap open, the more freedom you possess. Surfing the urge. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves about impulses is that they are unbearable. We feel the urge to quit a workout or break a diet, and we think, I have to give in or this feeling will kill me. It won't kill you. It's just a sensation. Psychologists use a technique called urge surfing. Imagine an impulse like a wave in the ocean. It starts small, it builds in intensity, it crests, and then, if you don't fight it, it crashes and dissipates. Most people panic when the wave builds. They think the intensity will keep rising forever until they explode, so they give in to the urge just to make the feeling stop. But if you simply observe the urge, if you watch it rise, acknowledge it, and refuse to act, it will eventually break. It has to. Your body cannot maintain a state of high arousal forever. Next time you want to quit, look at the clock. Tell yourself, I will not quit for 10 minutes. I will ride this wave.
Feel the discomfort. Where is it? Is it a tightness in your chest? Is it a restlessness in your legs? Observe it with curiosity, not fear. Oh, look at that. My brain is throwing a tantrum because it wants sugar. Interesting. If you can ride the wave for 10 minutes, usually the urge will fade. You will find yourself on the other side, calm and proud. You didn't drown, you surfed. The 10-second rule of future regret. Impulses are short-sighted. They have no concept of tomorrow. Your impulse wants the car, but it doesn't care about the monthly payments. It wants the affair, but it doesn't care about the divorce. To counter this, you need a time machine. Before you act on a strong impulse, you must mentally travel 10 minutes, 10 hours, and 10 days into the future. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this choice in 10 minutes? Usually the answer is,
I will feel guilty. The pleasure will be gone, and I'll just be left with the failure. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this in 10 days? I will be weaker. I will have reinforced the habit of quitting. You have to bring the pain of the future into the present. You have to let your future self vote. Right now, your present self is a tyrant. He wants what he wants, and he wants it now. He is willing to screw over your future self to get it. You have to protect your future self. You have to love your future self enough to say no to the tyrant in the mirror. When you deny an impulse, you are sending a gift to the future version of you. You are saying, I am taking this pain now so you can have the strength later. That is an act of love.
Emotional sobriety. We live in a culture that worships feelings. We're told to follow our hearts and honor our truth. But let's be honest, your feelings are often idiots. Your feelings will tell you to skip work when you're tired. Your feelings will tell you to scream at your children when you're frustrated. Your feelings will tell you to eat until you are sick. If you followed your feelings 100% of the time, you would be broke, obese, alone, and in jail. To win the war, you must cultivate emotional sobriety. This means you do not make decisions while intoxicated by emotion. Never make a permanent decision based on a temporary emotion. Do not send the email when you are angry. Do not make the promise when you are euphoric. Do not quit the project when you are depressed. When you are emotional, your IQ drops. You are literally dumber when you are angry or scared. Emotional sobriety means waiting until you are sober, until you are calm and rational before you act. It means looking at your feelings and saying, I acknowledge that I feel like quitting right now. That is a valid feeling, but it is not a command. You can feel fear and act with courage. You can feel exhaustion and act with discipline. You can feel anger and act with grace. Your actions must be independent of your feelings. This is the definition of integrity. It means your operating system is based on principles, not moods. The identity of the iron wall. Finally, you need to change how you view yourself in relation to temptation.
Many people try to resist impulses using willpower. They say, I really want the cigarette, but I'm trying to quit. This is weak. It implies that you are still a smoker who is depriving himself. Eventually, the willpower runs out. You need to shift your identity. You need to become an iron wall. When the impulse strikes, you don't say, I can't. You say, I don't. I don't eat that. I don't miss workouts. I don't lose my temper. I can't suggests external restriction. I don't suggests internal identity. When you identify as a disciplined person, resisting the impulse isn't a struggle. It's just who you are. A vegan doesn't need willpower to not eat steak. They just don't eat steak. It's not an option on their menu. You need to remove the options from your menu. Negotiating with yourself is exhausting. Decision fatigue will wear you down. If you have to decide every single morning whether or not to run, you will eventually skip it. Decide once. I am a runner. I run. End of discussion. The decision is made. The gap is closed. The impulse hits the iron wall and shatters. Chapter 5. The Weapon of Relentless Discipline. We have spent the first half of this book dissecting the enemy. We have looked at your biology, your psychology, and your impulses. We have analyzed the war. Now it is time to pick up a weapon. And there is only one weapon that matters. It is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is not inspiration. It is discipline.
But before you roll your eyes, before you think of a strict school teacher or a drill sergeant screaming in your face, I need you to erase everything you think you know about this word. Most people view discipline as a prison. They see it as a restriction of their freedom.
They think a disciplined life is a boring, gray existence where you never get to have any fun. They are wrong. Discipline is not a prison. Discipline is the key that unlocks the prison. If you cannot control what you eat, you are a slave to your appetite. If you cannot control your spending, you are a slave to your debt. If you cannot control your schedule, you are a slave to other people's demands. The undisciplined person is not free. They are a leaf blowing in the wind, pushed around by every urge, every distraction, and every external pressure. The disciplined person is the only one who is truly free. They are free to choose their health. They are free to choose their wealth. They are free to design their destiny because they have the power to execute the plan. This chapter is about forging that power. It is about moving from being a person who wants things to being a person who does things. It is about the weapon of relentless discipline, the great lie of motivation. If you take nothing else from this audiobook, take this. Motivation is a lie. Or rather, relying on motivation is a strategy for amateurs. Motivation is an emotion. It is a feeling. And like all feelings, it is fickle. It comes and goes like the weather. Some days the sun shines, and you feel energized and ready to conquer the world. On those days, working hard is easy.
But what about the rainy days? What about the days when you are tired, sad, sore, or just plain bored? If your ability to act is tied to your motivation, then on those days you are paralyzed. You are a fair-weather soldier. You only fight when the conditions are perfect. But the war against yourself does not stop because you don't feel like it. The enemy, entropy, decay, laziness, attacks every single day. If you only defend yourself when you feel motivated, you will lose. Discipline is the ability to act independent of your emotional state. It is the ability to do the work when the motivation is gone. Think of motivation like the starter motor in a car. It is great for getting the engine going, but discipline is the fuel. It is what keeps the car moving for the 1,000 miles after the spark has died out. You have to stop waiting to feel like it. You are never going to feel like waking up at 5 a.m. You are never going to feel like doing the difficult paperwork. You are never going to feel like having the hard conversation. Waiting for the feeling is a trap. The action must come first. And often, the feeling follows the action. You don't run because you feel good. You feel good because you ran. Discipline as the highest form of self-love. I want to reframe the emotional context of discipline. We often treat discipline as a form of self-punishment. We think, I have to force myself to do this because I am bad and I need to be fixed. This is the wrong approach. You cannot hate yourself into a better life. Sustainable discipline must be rooted in love. Discipline is the highest form of self-love. It is the act of prioritizing your long-term happiness over your short-term comfort. When you force yourself to go to sleep early instead of scrolling on your phone, you are not punishing yourself. You are loving your future self who needs to be rested tomorrow. When you force yourself to save money instead of buying the gadget, you are loving the future self who wants financial security. It is exactly like parenting. If you let a child eat candy for dinner every night and stay up until 2 a.m., you are not being a cool parent, you are being a negligent parent. You are setting that child up for sickness and failure. You have to parent yourself. You have to love yourself enough to say no to the toddler in your brain who wants the candy. You have to love yourself enough to do the hard things that create a good life. When you view discipline as an act of love, the resistance softens. You aren't fighting yourself. You are fighting for yourself. The mechanic of the next right thing. So how do we apply this? How do we become disciplined when we have spent years being lazy? You do not become a Navy SEAL overnight. You build discipline the same way you build muscle, with progressive overload. If you try to change everything at once, if you try to overhaul your diet, your sleep, your work habits, and your relationships all on Monday morning, you will crash by Wednesday. That is not discipline, that is delusion. Start with the concept of the next right thing. Forget the 5-year plan for a moment. Forget the massive mountain you have to climb. Just look at the next 5 minutes. What is the next right move?
Maybe it is simply putting down the phone. Okay, do that. Now, what is the next right move? Putting on your shoes. Do that. Now what is the next right move? Walking out the door. Discipline is a sequence of micro decisions. It is a chain reaction. If you focus on the chain, it feels heavy. If you focus on the single link you are forging right now, it is manageable. You build trust with yourself by making these small promises and keeping them. Every time you say you will do something and then you do it, you lay a brick in the foundation of your character. Start small, but be relentless. If you say you are going to make the bed, make the bed. Even if the house is on fire, make the bed. You have to teach your brain that your word is law. Killing the negotiator. We touched on this earlier, but it is the central pillar of discipline. You must kill the negotiator. The negotiator is that voice in your head that starts bargaining the moment discomfort arrives. I'll do the workout, but I'll only do 20 minutes instead of 30. I'll wake up early, but I'll hit the snooze button just once. I'll write the report, but first I need a coffee and a snack. The negotiator is poisonous. It weakens your resolve by offering you a compromise. And every time you accept the compromise, you train your brain to be weak. You teach yourself that your standards are flexible. Discipline requires binary thinking. It is ones and zeros. Yes or no. Done or not done. There is no gray area. When the alarm goes off, there is no negotiation. You get up. When it is time to work, there is no debate. You work. If you allow the debate to start, you have already lost. The negotiator is smarter than you. It knows your insecurities. It knows your fatigue. It will talk you out of greatness every single time. Don't give it a seat at the table. Silence the debate before it begins. Adopt the mindset of a machine. A machine does not complain. A machine does not negotiate. It receives a command and it executes. Be the machine. The paradox of structure. There is a common belief that structure kills creativity and spontaneity. People say, I don't want a rigid schedule. I want to go with the flow. Going with the flow is a euphemism for drifting. Only dead fish go with the flow. Structure creates freedom. Think of a river. Without banks, the water spreads out, becomes a swamp, and stagnates. It has no direction and no power. But if you constrain the water with strong banks, if you give it structure, it becomes a rushing river. It can turn turbines. It can carve canyons. It has force. Your energy is the water. Discipline is the riverbank. By creating a rigid structure for your day, you actually free up your mental energy. You don't have to waste brain power deciding when to work or what to eat or when to train. The decision is already made. The structure holds you. This is why the most successful artists, writers, and entrepreneurs often have incredibly boring, repetitive routines. They wear the same clothes, they eat the same breakfast, they work at the same time. They automate the basics of life so they can direct all their creative fire into their work. If you wake up every day and have to reinvent your schedule, you are wasting your power. Build a framework.
Set the hours. Guard them with your life. The routine is the vessel that holds your success. Embracing the boring. We are addicted to excitement. We want the montage moment. We want the part of the movie where the hero trains for 3 minutes to an upbeat song and suddenly becomes a champion. Real life has no montage. Real life is the long, slow, quiet grind. Real discipline is boring. It is doing the same thing
over and over again, long after the excitement has faded. It is eating the chicken and broccoli for the 100th time. It is making the cold calls when nobody is answering. It is writing the words when nobody is reading. The amateur gets bored and quits. They go looking for a new shiny object, a new diet, a new business idea. The master gets bored and keeps going. You have to fall in love with the boredom. You have to find a meditative peace in the repetition. This is where the magic happens. The compound effect, the force that turns small actions into massive results, only kicks in after a long period of consistency. If you dig a hole in a different spot every day, you will end up with a field of shallow holes. If you dig in the same spot every day, eventually you will strike oil. Discipline is the refusal to move the shovel. It is the commitment to the spot. It is the understanding that the breakthrough is on the other side of the boredom. The callus on the mind. In the next chapter, we will talk about suffering. But here, I want to introduce the concept of callousing the mind. When you work with your hands, the skin gets damaged. It hurts. But if you keep working, the skin heals thicker.
It becomes a callus. Eventually, you can handle rough work without pain. Discipline calluses the mind. The first time you force yourself to work when you are tired, it is agony. Your brain screams, but you do it anyway. The 10th time, it is annoying. The 100th time, it is nothing. It is just what you do. You have raised your baseline. You have hardened your mind. Things that would destroy a weaker person, a bad day, a rejection, a failure, bounce off you because you are armored in discipline. This is the ultimate victory, when the difficult thing becomes the normal thing, when the extraordinary effort becomes your standard operating procedure. You are no longer fighting the war, you have become the war machine. Chapter 6. Callousing the Soul. How comfortable are you right now? You are probably sitting in a temperature-controlled room. You are probably wearing soft clothes. You have access to endless food, endless water, and endless entertainment. If you feel a slight chill, you put on a jacket. If you feel a pang of hunger, you eat. If you feel bored, you open an app. We live in the most comfortable era in human history, and it is making us weak. Comfort is a slow death. It is a silent killer that wraps you in a warm blanket and suffocates your potential. When you are always comfortable, your mind and body atrophy. You lose your edge, you become fragile, and in a war, fragility is fatal. The enemy we have been fighting, the shadow self, thrives in comfort. It wants you soft. It wants you to panic at the first sign of adversity. It wants you to crumble when the pressure mounts. To win this war, you must do something counterintuitive. You must declare war on comfort itself.
You must seek out friction. You must learn to suffer. This chapter is about the art of callousing the soul. It is about voluntarily choosing the hard path so that when life inevitably forces you onto the hard path, you are ready. It is about raising your pain threshold until the things that break other people don't even scratch you. The biology of softness. Let's look at nature. What happens to an animal that is raised in captivity? It gets fed every day. It is protected from predators. It sleeps in a safe enclosure. It seems like a good life. But if you release that animal into the wild, it dies within days. It has no survival instincts. Its muscles are weak. Its senses are dull. It has been softened by safety. You are that animal. The modern world is a zoo designed to keep you safe and sedated. You have no predators hunting you. You have no need to hunt for food. You have no need to build shelter. Because you are never tested, you never grow. Biology operates on a use it or lose it principle. If you do not use your strength, your body dissolves it to save energy. If you do not use your mental resilience, your brain dissolves it. When you avoid difficult things, you are literally signaling to your body and mind, we don't need to be strong. We are safe. Power down the defenses.
And then, when a crisis hits, when you lose your job or a loved one gets sick or the economy crashes, you are defenseless. You are a zoo animal thrown into the jungle, wondering why you can't survive. To survive the wild, you must train in the wild. You must simulate the harshness of reality before reality imposes it on you. The friction of greatness. There is a fundamental law of the universe. Growth requires friction. Diamonds are formed under massive pressure. Muscles grow only when they are torn by heavy weights. A sword is forged by fire and hammering. There is no version of reality where you become great without suffering. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid friction. They look for the hack. They look for the shortcut. They want the six-pack without the hunger. They want the wealth without the risk. They want the wisdom without the tragedy. They are chasing a ghost. If you want to win the war against yourself, you have to stop running from pain and start running toward it. You have to understand that the pain is not the enemy. The pain is the forge. Every time you feel the burn in the gym, that is weakness leaving the body. Every time you feel the frustration of learning a new skill, that is ignorance leaving the mind. Every time you feel the fear of public speaking, that is cowardice leaving the soul. The suffering is the mechanism of transformation. If you remove the suffering, you remove the growth. The theory of the callus. Imagine the hands of a pianist versus the hands of a blacksmith. The pianist's hands are soft, sensitive, and delicate. The blacksmith's hands are rough, hard, and covered in calluses. A callus is a protective layer of skin that forms in response to repeated friction. It is the body's way of saying, this area is under attack. We need to armor it. Once the callus is formed, the blacksmith can handle hot metal and rough wood without pain. He can work harder and longer than the man with soft hands. Your mind works the same way. If you have never experienced failure, the first failure will devastatingly hurt you. Your ego is soft skin. It bleeds easily. But if you fail 10 times and you get back up 10 times, you develop a mental callus. The 11th failure doesn't hurt. You look at it and say, okay, that didn't work. Next. This is what it means to callous the soul. It means exposing yourself to controlled doses of adversity so that you build armor over your insecurities and fears. You want to reach a point where your skin is so thick that the insults of others, the setbacks of life, and the doubts of your own mind cannot penetrate it. Voluntary hardship. So how do we build these calluses? We cannot wait for tragedy to strike. We must engage in voluntary hardship. Voluntary hardship is the practice of choosing to do difficult things for no other reason than to prove to yourself that you can. This is why people run ultramarathons. This is why people take ice baths. This is why people fast. There is no logical reason to run 100 miles. It hurts. It is dangerous. You don't get $1 million at the finish line. But the runner isn't running for the medal. They are running for the mind. They are running to see if they can override the part of their brain that is screaming stop. When you voluntarily choose to suffer, you are flipping the power dynamic. When life inflicts suffering on you, like an illness or a breakup, you are the victim. You are reacting. When you inflict suffering on yourself, like a hard workout or a cold shower, you are the master. You are the initiator. You are teaching your brain, I am the one who decides when we feel pain. I am the one who decides when we stop. This creates a formidable confidence. If you know you can survive a freezing cold shower every morning, you are less afraid of a cold email. If you know you can push through the last rep of a squat when your legs are shaking, you are less afraid of a difficult project. You are banking evidence of your own toughness. The 40% rule. The Navy SEALs have a concept called the 40% rule. It states that when your mind tells you that you are done, that you are exhausted, that you cannot take another step, you are actually only 40% done. Your brain has a governor, just like a car engine. It limits your performance to protect the engine from blowing up. Your brain creates the feeling of exhaustion long before you are physically tapped out. It is a safety buffer. Most people hit that 40% wall and quit. They think, I have given everything. No, you haven't. You have given everything you are comfortable giving. You have tapped the reserve tank, but you haven't touched the main tank. Callousing the soul is about pushing past the 40%. It is about staying in the fight when the governor kicks in. It is in that dark place, past the point of exhaustion, that you find out who you really are. That is where the demons live. That is where the excuses get loud. And that is where you kill them. When you push into the 60%, the 80%, the 90%,
you unlock a level of energy you didn't know existed. You realize that your limits were imaginary. They were just lines drawn in the sand by your fear. And once you cross that line once, you can cross it again. You have expanded your territory. You have redrawn the map of your own capabilities, reframing pain as information. To endure this process, you must change your relationship with pain. The average person views pain as a stop signal. This hurts, therefore I should stop. The warrior views pain as information. This hurts. That means I am pushing a limit. That means I am in the growth zone. That means I am alive. Pain is just a sensation. It is a neural signal sent from your nerves to your brain. It is data. When you are in the middle of a hard task, try to detach from the suffering. Become the observer we talked about in Chapter 3. Instead of thinking, I am dying, think, my heart rate is elevated. My muscles are accumulating lactic acid. My lungs are demanding oxygen. Strip the emotion out of it. Look at the mechanics. I am currently uncomfortable. Will this kill me? No. Is this permanent? No. Can I endure this for 10 more seconds? Yes. Then do 10 more seconds. Then ask the question again. You can endure almost anything for 10 seconds. The trick is to just keep stringing those 10-second blocks together until the job is done. The microdoses of misery. You don't need to go live in the mountains and become a monk to callous your soul. You can start today, right in your living room. You can introduce microdoses of misery into your life. The cold shower. Turn the knob to the coldest setting for the last 30 seconds of your shower. Stand in it. Don't hyperventilate. Control your breathing. Your brain will scream, "This is stupid, get out, it's cold." Stay. Force your mind to be calm in the chaos. It's only water. It's only cold. Conquer the flinch. The fast. Skip a meal or go 24 hours without food. Feel the hunger pangs. Watch how your mood changes. Watch how you get irritable. Observe the addiction to food. Tell your stomach, we are not eating yet. I am in charge. Realize that hunger is not an emergency. It is just a feeling. The uncomfortable conversation. Is there a truth you have been avoiding telling someone? A boundary you need to set? An apology you need to make? Do it. The anxiety you feel before you speak is the pain. Walk into it. The relief on the other side is the growth. The extra rep. When you are working out and you count to 10, do 11. Always do one more than you planned. That last rep, the one you didn't plan for, the one that hurts the most, is the only one that counts for the soul. That is the rep that says, I do more than is required. The peace of the savage. There is a paradox at the end of this road. You might think that a person who constantly seeks suffering would be angry, stressed, or aggressive. But the opposite is true. The people who have calloused their souls are often the calmest people in the room. Why? Because they know what they can handle. If you have run a marathon on a broken toe, a traffic jam doesn't upset you.
If you have fasted for 3 days, a slightly cold meal doesn't bother you. If you have faced your darkest demons in the gym or in the arena, a rude comment from a coworker feels like nothing. You have raised your baseline so high that the petty annoyances of daily life don't even register on your radar. You have a quiet confidence. You don't need to bark because you know you can bite. This is the state of the sovereign mind. You are peaceful not because you are sheltered, but because you are dangerous. You have walked through the fire and you know you are fireproof. Chapter 7. The Death of the Old Self. Here is a hard truth that nobody tells you about self-improvement. You cannot become the person you want to be while clinging to the person you are. We often talk about growth as if it were a simple addition. We think we can just add a few good habits to our existing personality. We think we can add a gym routine, a meditation practice, and a savings account to the same old version of ourselves, and everything will change. It doesn't work that way. You cannot put a jet engine on a bicycle and expect it to fly. The structure cannot handle the power. If you want to win the war against yourself, you don't need a renovation. You need a demolition. You need to let the old version of you die. This sounds dramatic, but it is the only way permanent change happens. The reason you keep falling back into old patterns is that you are trying to force a new behavior onto an old identity. You are a smoker trying to act like a non-smoker.
You are a lazy person trying to act like an athlete. You are a fearful person trying to act like a leader. As long as your core identity remains, I am a smoker, I am lazy, or I am fearful, you will always revert to the mean. You will always self-correct back to who you believe you are. To win, you must undergo a psychological death. You must say goodbye to the person who has brought you this far, because that person is not equipped to take you any further. The anchor of identity. Your identity is the strongest force in your personality. It is the collection of beliefs you hold about yourself. It is the story you tell yourself about who you are. I'm just not a math person. I'm always late. I have a sweet tooth. I'm terrible at relationships. These are not facts. These are scripts. And because human beings have a deep psychological need to be consistent with their own identity, you will subconsciously sabotage yourself to make these scripts come true. If you believe you are bad with money and you suddenly get a raise, you will feel uncomfortable. It doesn't match your script, so you will unconsciously find a way to spend it, lose it, or give it away until your bank account matches your identity again. This is why willpower fails. Willpower is you fighting against your identity. It is exhausting. Eventually, the muscle gives out, and the identity wins. To change your life, you must stop fighting the actions and start rewriting the script. You have to pull up the anchor, the funeral. This process begins with a funeral.
You have to look at the version of you that currently exists, the one who procrastinates, the one who is insecure, the one who settles for less. And you have to realize that this person cannot come with you to the next level. You have to mourn them. This is a strange concept, but it is necessary. We are attached to our old selves, even the parts that hurt us. We are attached to our victim stories because they give us sympathy. We are attached to our excuses because they protect us from failure. Killing the old self means letting go of the payoff you get from being small. You have to admit, the version of me that blames my parents for my problems is dead. The version of me that needs alcohol to be social is dead. The version of me that is afraid of rejection is dead. You might even want to write a eulogy. Write down everything that the old you was. Acknowledge that they did their best to survive. Thank them for getting you here. And then bury them. This creates a vacuum, and the universe hates a vacuum. Something new must fill it. The avatar method. If you could design a character in a video game, you would not design one that is weak, slow, and anxious. You would design one with maximum stats. You would give them strength, charisma, and intelligence. You are playing a video game right now. It's called life, and you have the power to redesign your avatar at any moment. I want you to vividly imagine the version of you that has already won the war. Let's call this the sovereign self. How does the sovereign self walk?
Do they shuffle with their head down, or do they stride with purpose? How does the sovereign self speak? Do they mumble and apologize, or do they speak with clarity and conviction? How does the sovereign self handle a crisis? Do they panic, or do they assess? You need to build this character in your mind with obsessive detail. You need to know them better than you know your current self. This is not fake it till you make it. This is method acting for your life. When you walk into a room, you are not walking in as you. You are walking in as them. You are stepping into the skin of the sovereign self. When a challenge arises, you don't ask, "What do I want to do?" You ask, "What would the sovereign self do?" The sovereign self wouldn't hit the snooze button, so I won't. The sovereign self wouldn't eat the donut, so I won't. The sovereign self wouldn't send that desperate text, so I won't. By outsourcing your decisions to this higher identity, you bypass your current limitations. You are training your brain to adopt a new operating system. Cognitive dissonance as a tool. When you start acting like this new character, your brain is going to freak out. It will scream, "This isn't you. You're a fraud. You're acting." This feeling is called cognitive dissonance. It is the mental stress caused by holding two conflicting beliefs. Belief 1, old identity, I am a lazy person. Actions, new identity, I am waking up at 5 a.m. and running. Your brain hates this tension. It wants to resolve it immediately. Usually, it resolves it by making you stop the action.
It tries to pull the behavior back down to match the belief, but you can use this force in the opposite direction. If you maintain the action long enough, if you refuse to stop running, if you refuse to sleep in, eventually your brain has to update the belief to match the behavior. It says, well, we keep running every day. We keep waking up early. I guess we are an athlete now. That is the moment of the shift. That is when the new identity takes root. You have forced the software to update by relentlessly pressing the keys. You must be willing to live in the discomfort of dissonance for weeks, maybe months. You must be willing to feel like a fraud until the moment you become the real deal. The power of I am. Words are spells. That is why it is called spelling. The words you attach to I am are the commands you send to your subconscious mind. Most people cast black magic on themselves all day long. I am tired. I am stressed. I am anxious. I am stuck. You are literally commanding your body to produce the chemicals of fatigue, stress, and paralysis. You must change your language. This is not about lying to yourself. It is about stating your intention. Stop saying, I'm trying to quit smoking. Say, I am a non-smoker. Stop saying, I'm trying to get in shape. Say, I am an athlete. Stop saying, I hope I can lead this team. Say, I am a leader. When you speak with authority, your psychology aligns with it. There was a famous story about a man who wanted to stop drinking. When offered a drink, he used to say, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. He failed repeatedly. Then he changed his response. When offered a drink, he said, no thanks, I don't drink. He never drank again. The first response implies a struggle. The second response implies an identity. Own the identity before you have the evidence. The evidence will follow the belief. Burning the boats. There is a legendary story about a commander who landed his army on enemy shores. As the soldiers disembarked, he looked at his men and gave the order, burn the boats. The men watched as their only way home turned to ash and sank into the ocean. The commander turned to them and said, now the only way home is through them. They fought with a ferocity that cannot be matched, and they won. To kill the old self, you must burn the boats. You must cut off the retreat. If you want to start a business, quit the job that makes you comfortable. If you want to get fit, throw away every piece of junk food in your house so you cannot eat it. If you want to move on from an ex, delete the number, block the profile, and remove the photos. As long as you have a safety net, you will not fight with everything you have. As long as the old self has a key to the house, he will try to sneak back in. Change the locks, make it impossible to go back. When you leave yourself no option but to succeed, you usually do. The loneliness of the chrysalis. I must warn you about one side effect of this death and rebirth. You will be lonely. When you start changing, the people around you will get uncomfortable. Your growth holds up a mirror to their stagnation. They like the old you because the old you made them feel safe. The old you fit into their box. The new you is disruptive. The new you challenges them. Some friends will fall away. Some family members will criticize you. They will say, "You've changed," as if it's an insult. When they say, "You've changed," you look them in the eye and say, "Thank you. That was the point." Do not shrink back to comfort them. Do not resurrect the dead version of yourself just to keep the peace. You are in the chrysalis. It is a solitary place, but it is where the caterpillar dissolves to become the butterfly. Endure the loneliness. The people who belong in your future will meet you on the other side. You are upgrading your circle by upgrading yourself. Chapter 8. Fortifying the perimeter. If I take a recovering alcoholic and I lock him in a bar, how long do you think he will last? He might last an hour. He might last a day. If he has incredible willpower, he might last a week. But eventually, he will drink. Why? Because the environment is stronger than the will. We like to believe that we are independent operators, that our choices come purely from inside us. But the truth is, we are deeply permeable creatures. We absorb our surroundings. We mimic the people around us. We are shaped by the spaces we inhabit. You cannot fight a war against yourself if you are living in enemy territory. If your kitchen is full of junk food, you will eat junk food.
If your friends are lazy and cynical, you will become lazy and cynical. If your phone is constantly buzzing with distractions, you will be distracted. You can have the mindset of a warrior, but if your perimeter is weak, you will eventually be overrun. Chapter 8 is about defense. It is about fortifying the perimeter. It is about ruthlessly curating your external world so that it supports your internal mission. We are going to stop relying on willpower and start relying on design. The myth of willpower. Let's kill the myth of willpower once and for all. Willpower is a battery. It drains throughout the day. Every time you make a decision, every time you resist an urge, every time you focus on a hard task, you use up a little bit of that charge. By 8 p.m., your battery is dead. That is why you binge eat at night. That is why you skip the evening workout. That is why you scroll mindlessly before bed. You aren't weak. You are just empty. The amateur relies on willpower to navigate a hostile environment. He tries to resist the cookies on the counter. He tries to ignore the television. He is fighting 1,000 tiny battles every day, and eventually he loses one. The master does not fight these battles. The master removes the enemy from the field. If there are no cookies in the house, you don't need willpower to not eat them. If the television is unplugged, you don't need willpower to not watch it. If your phone is in another room, you don't need willpower to not check it. This is strategic laziness. You make the good behavior easy and the bad behavior hard. You design your life so that discipline is the path of least resistance.
The social contagion. They say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That is a cliché, but it is also a mathematical certainty. Humans are herd animals. We have mirror neurons in our brains that are designed to copy the behaviors and emotions of those around us. If you are standing in a room full of people who are panicking, your heart rate will go up. If you are in a room full of people who are laughing, you will smile. This applies to ambition and discipline as well. Look at your circle. Really look at them. Are they talking about ideas, or are they talking about people? Are they building their future, or are they complaining about their present? Do they celebrate your growth, or do they try to pull you back down? If you are the most disciplined person in your friend group, you are in the wrong group. You are the smartest person in the room, which means you are not learning. You are dragging dead weight. This sounds harsh. It sounds ruthless. But you are fighting a war. You cannot afford to have soldiers in your unit who are shooting at you. You don't necessarily have to cut everyone off. You can love your old friends from a distance. But you must protect your time. You must protect your energy. You need to find a pack. You need to find people who are running faster than you. When you surround yourself with high performers, your normal shifts. If everyone around you wakes up at 5 a.m., sleeping until 7 a.m. feels like failure. If everyone around you is investing their money, spending it on nonsense feels stupid. The peer pressure works in your favor.
You are drafted into success by the current of your social circle. The digital siege. The most dangerous enemy soldier is currently in your pocket. Your smartphone is not a tool, it is a slot machine. It is designed by the smartest engineers in the world to hijack your attention and sell it to advertisers. Every notification, every red dot, every infinite scroll is calculated to keep you addicted. You're under a constant digital siege. How can you expect to win the war against yourself when you are being bombarded by thousands of interruptions a day? How can you do deep work when your concentration is shattered every 3 minutes? You must build a fortress around your focus. Tactic 1. The phone for your method. When you walk into your house, put your phone in a bowl by the door. Do not carry it around with you. If you need to use it, go to the bowl. Treat it like a landline. This simple act restores your presence in your own home. Tactic 2. The notification nuke. Turn off every single notification except for phone calls and text messages. No Instagram likes, no news alerts, no email pings. You check the apps when you decide, not when the app decides. You are the master. The phone is the servant. Tactic 3. Digital fasting. Pick one day a week or even just one evening where you go completely offline. No screens. You will feel the withdrawal. You will feel the boredom. But in that silence, your brain will start to heal. Your creativity will return. Your anxiety will drop. You have to reclaim your mind from the algorithm. You cannot hear your own thoughts if you are constantly plugged into the hive mind.
The architecture of spaces. Your physical environment cues your habits. If you try to work in your bed, your brain is confused. Is this for sleeping or for spreadsheets? If you try to relax in your messy office, your brain is stressed. Look at all that unfinished work. You need to zone your life. You need to assign specific behaviors to specific spaces. The war room. Create a dedicated space for work. It doesn't have to be a whole office. It can be a specific desk or a specific chair. When you sit there, you work. You do not scroll, you do not eat, you do not chat. Over time, your brain will anchor that space to focus mode. The moment your butt hits the chair, you will switch on. The sanctuary. Create a space for rest. This should be a no-screen zone. No work allowed. This is for reading, meditating, or sleeping. When you enter this space, your nervous system should automatically downregulate. The friction audit. Walk through your house and look for friction. If you want to read more, place a book on your pillow, so you have to move it to go to sleep. If you want to drink more water, put a full glass on your nightstand. If you want to work out, lay your clothes out the night before. Remove the steps between you and the good habit. Add steps between you and the bad habit. If you have to unplug the TV and move it out of the closet to watch it, you will only watch it when you really want to. You won't watch it just because you are bored. You are the architect. Design the building to force the behavior.
The information diet. We talked about this briefly in the mindset chapter, but it belongs here in the perimeter defense as well. Your subconscious mind is always recording. It absorbs the lyrics of the music you listen to. It absorbs the violence in the movies you watch. It absorbs the panic in the news you read. If you listen to sad music, you will feel sad. If you watch shows about betrayal, you will become suspicious. If you read news about economic collapse, you will become fearful. You need to fortify your information perimeter. Stop watching the news. If something important happens, you will hear about it. The news is a business model built on selling fear. You do not need that poison in your water supply. Curate your social media feed. Unfollow anyone who makes you feel inadequate, angry, or distracted. Follow people who teach you, inspire you, or challenge you. Turn your commute into a university. Stop listening to the same 10 songs on the radio. Listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts, learn a language, learn history, learn business. If you spend 1 hour a day in your car, that is 365 hours a year. That is 9 40-hour work weeks. You can get the equivalent of a college degree in your car every 3 years. Or you can listen to commercials and bad pop music. The choice is yours. The energy vampires. We need to address a specific type of person who breaches your perimeter, the energy vampire. These are the people who suck the life out of you. They are the constant victims. They call you to complain for an hour, but never ask how you are. They create drama out of thin air. They're always in a crisis of their own making.
You know exactly who I am talking about. You can feel your energy drop the moment their name pops up on your phone. You cannot afford these people. Energy is a finite resource. You need every ounce of it to fight your internal war. You cannot donate it to a black hole. You have to set hard boundaries. I can only talk for 5 minutes. I'm not the right person to help you with this. I can't be involved in this drama. If they respect the boundary, they can stay. If they violate the boundary, they must go. This is not about being mean. It is about self-preservation. You cannot save a drowning person if they are pulling you under with them. The power of no. The ultimate fortification of your perimeter is the word no. No is a complete sentence. It is the shield that blocks the arrows of obligation. We are terrified of saying no. We want to be liked. We want to be helpful. So we say yes to the dinner party we don't want to attend. We say yes to the project we don't have time for. We say yes to the favor that inconveniences us. And then we resent it. We show up angry and drained. Every time you say a weak yes to someone else, you are saying a strong no to yourself. You are saying no to your goals. You are saying no to your rest. You are saying no to your mission. You have to become stingy with your yes. Your time is the most valuable asset you own. It is the only thing you can never get back. Protect it like a dragon protecting gold. No, I can't do that.
No, that doesn't fit my schedule. No, I am focusing on something else right now. People might be annoyed at first, but eventually they will respect you. They will realize that your time has value, and more importantly, you will realize your time has value. Chapter 9. The Infinite Game of Consistency. Anyone can be great for a day. Anyone can wake up early once. Anyone can do a brutal workout once. Anyone can eat a perfect diet for 24 hours. That is easy. That is just a burst of adrenaline. It is a flash in the pan. The world is full of people who are occasionally great. They get motivated, they go hard for 2 weeks, they burn out, and then they crash. They live their lives in a jagged rhythm of manic productivity followed by depressive stagnation. They are addicted to intensity. But the war against yourself is not won by intensity. It is won by consistency. Intensity makes for a good Instagram post. Consistency makes history. This chapter is the unglamorous truth that separates the amateurs from the masters. We are going to talk about the grind. We are going to talk about what happens when the music stops, the applause fades, and you are left alone with the work. We are going to move you from the mindset of a sprinter to the mindset of a glacier, slow, relentless, and reshaping the entire landscape simply by refusing to stop. The trap of intensity. Why do we love intensity? Because it feels like progress. When you decide to change your life, you want to do it all right now. You map out a plan to run 10 miles a day, read a book a week, and launch a business in a month.
Do you attack your goals with a frenzy? For the first few days, you feel euphoric. You are high on the idea of your own potential. But biology has a rule. What goes up must come down. High intensity is energetically expensive. It triggers a massive stress response in the body. Eventually, the adrenaline wears off, and the bill comes due. You get sore. You get tired. You get bored. And the moment you miss one of your impossible targets, the house of cards collapses. You think, I failed. I can't keep this up. So you quit everything. You go from 100 to 0. This is the all-or-nothing mentality, and it is the enemy of consistency. The tortoise and the hare is not just a children's fable. It is a tactical manual for life. The hare relies on talent and bursts of speed. The tortoise relies on the relentless refusal to stop moving forward. If you want to win the war, you must kill the part of you that craves the heroic effort. You don't need to be a hero. You need to be a machine. A machine doesn't sprint. A machine operates. It has a rhythm. It hits the same output day after day, regardless of the weather, regardless of its mood. The Stonecutter's Credo. There is a concept in success called the plateau of latent potential. When you start a new habit, say going to the gym, you expect a linear result. You think, I worked out today, so I should see a change in the mirror tomorrow. But reality doesn't work that way. Reality is delayed. You work out for a week, nothing happens. You work out for a month, you look exactly the same. You work out for 3 months,
Maybe a tiny change, but nobody notices. This is the valley of death. This is where 90% of people quit. They say, I'm putting in the effort, but I'm not getting the reward. This isn't working. They are wrong. It is working, but the results are being stored. Imagine a stonecutter hammering away at a giant rock. Rock? No. It was the cumulative effect of the 100 blows that came before it. Consistency is the act of hammering the rock when you can't see the crack. You have to have the faith of the stonecutter. You have to understand that every healthy meal, every page written, every dollar saved is being stored in a hidden reservoir. You are building pressure. Eventually, you hit the tipping point. The weight drops off, the business explodes, the skill clicks. It looks like an overnight success to the outside world, but you know the truth. It was the 1,000 days of invisible work that made the visible result possible. Standard operating procedure. How do we maintain this consistency when our emotions are screaming at us to quit? We stop treating our habits as choices and start treating them as standard operating procedures, or SOPs. In the military, or in a high-stakes business, there are SOPs for everything. When X happens, you do Y. You don't debate it. You don't wait until you feel inspired. You follow the procedure. You need to build SOPs for your life. SOP, morning routine. Alarm rings at 6 a.m., feet hit the floor. Glass of water, gym clothes on.
Note, there is no step in there that says, check how I feel, or negotiate with inner voice. SOP, deep work, laptop opens, phone goes to airplane mode, timer set for 90 minutes. Right. When you view your habits as procedures, you remove the emotional weight. It's not a reflection of your soul. It's just the protocol. I don't feel like working out today. Copy that. But the SOP says we lift at 5 p.m., so we are going. This detachment is crucial. You are the CEO of your life, but you are also the employee. The CEO sets the SOP, the employee executes it, and the employee doesn't get to call in sick just because they're bored. The rule of never miss twice. Here is the secret to long-term consistency. You do not have to be perfect. Perfectionism is brittle. If your goal is to be perfect, the moment you crack, you shatter. You will miss a day. You will get sick. You will have a family emergency. You will just plain screw up and eat the pizza. That is inevitable. The war is not lost in the mistake. The war is lost in the spiral that follows the mistake. The amateur misses a workout on Tuesday and thinks, well, I ruined the week. I might as well take the rest of the week off and start fresh on Monday. That is insanity. That is like getting a flat tire and slashing the other 3 tires because the car is already ruined. The professional adopts the rule, never miss twice. If you miss a workout on Tuesday, you are in the gym on Wednesday, no matter what. If you eat a bad meal at lunch, you eat a healthy meal at dinner. 1 mistake is an outlier. 2 mistakes is the beginning of a new habit. You must stop the bleeding immediately. You must have a short memory for your failures. Forgive yourself, reset the SOP, and get back on the line.
Resilience is not about never falling. It is about how fast you get back up. The gap between the fall and the recovery is where the champion lives. Boredom is the filter. We live in a culture that worships excitement. We want the new app, the new diet, the new relationship. We are constantly chasing the shiny object. But the path to mastery is repetitive. It is doing the same basic things over and over again for years. The greatest weightlifters in the world do the same 5 exercises every day. The greatest writers write every day. The greatest investors read reports every day. It is boring. And that boredom is a filter. The universe uses boredom to weed out the people who don't really want it. It tests you. It says, you said you wanted to be great. Are you willing to be bored to get there? Most people say no. They quit the moment the novelty wears off. They are tourists in the land of success. You must learn to fall in love with the boredom. You must find a zen-like satisfaction in the repetition. Here I am again, writing the words, lifting the weight, saving the money. There is a quiet nobility in the grind. It is the feeling of a craftsman refining his art. You are not looking for the applause. You are looking for the perfection of the stroke. The infinite game. Author Simon Sinek talks about the difference between a finite game and an infinite game. A finite game has known players, fixed rules, and an agreed-upon objective, like football. The game ends, and someone wins. An infinite game has known and unknown players, the rules are changeable, and the objective is to keep playing the game, like business or politics or life. The war against yourself is an infinite game. There's no finish line. There is no day where a referee blows a whistle and says, "Congratulations, you are now perfectly disciplined. You can stop." If you stop, you lose. If you stop exercising, your body decays. If you stop learning, your mind atrophies. If you stop fighting the shadow self, it takes over again. This realization scares some people. They want to know when it ends. They want to know when they can rest. But for the warrior, this realization is liberating. If there is no finish line, you don't have to rush. You don't have to kill yourself trying to win by next Tuesday. You just have to stay in the game. You are playing for longevity. You are playing to be better today than you were yesterday, and better tomorrow than you are today. This takes the pressure off. You stop comparing yourself to others because you realize they are playing a different game. You are playing against your past self. And as long as you are beating him, you are winning. Compounding your identity. The ultimate reward of consistency is not the money or the body or the status. Those are just the side effects. The ultimate reward is the compounding of your identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you deposit trust in the bank of your self-esteem. Every time you do the work when you don't feel like it, you deposit strength in the bank of your character. Over days, months, and years, these deposits compound. You start to look at yourself differently. You walk through the world knowing that you are the type of person who can be counted on. You know that you are dangerous because you do not stop. You realize that most people are stopped by their feelings, but you are not. Most people are stopped by boredom, but you are not. Most people are stopped by failure, but you are not. This creates a level of confidence that cannot be faked. It is not the loud, arrogant confidence of the amateur who is hyping himself up. It is the quiet, terrifying confidence of the professional who knows exactly what he is capable of. You don't need to tell people you are disciplined. They can feel it. It radiates off you. It is in the way you stand. It is in the way you look them in the eye. You have built a reputation with yourself, and that is the only reputation that matters. The 1% rule. So, how do you play the infinite game? You focus on the 1%. Don't try to be 100% better tomorrow. That is impossible. Try to be 1% better. Read one more page. lift 1 more pound. Save 1 more dollar. Be 1 minute earlier. 1% seems insignificant in the moment, but 1% compounded daily doubles every 72 days. If you get 1% better every day for a year, you will be 37 times better by the end of the year. Think about that. 37 times better. That is the math of consistency. It is exponential. But it only works if you don't break the chain.
Stop looking for the magic pill. Stop looking for the quantum leap. The magic is in the 1%. The magic is in the showing up. The magic is in the refusal to let a day pass without a deposit. Chapter 10. The Sovereign Mind. We have arrived at the end of the war. Or rather, we have arrived at the point where the war changes. Throughout this audiobook, we have used the language of battle. We have talked about enemies, weapons, tactics, and sieges. This was necessary. When you are a slave to your impulses, you must fight to break free. Violence, psychological violence against your own weakness, is required to overthrow a tyrant. But you cannot live in a state of civil war forever. A country that is constantly fighting itself eventually burns to the ground. There comes a moment when the revolution must end and governance must begin. There comes a moment when the warrior puts down the sword and ascends the throne to become the king. This is the final stage of your evolution. This is the state of the sovereign mind. Victory is not the absence of struggle. Victory is the absence of internal treason. It is the state where you are no longer fighting against yourself, but leading yourself. It is the state where your mind, body, and spirit are finally aligned, moving in one direction, under one command, yours. The definition of sovereignty. What does it mean to be sovereign? Historically, a sovereign is a supreme ruler. They answer to no one. Their word is law within their domain. To have a sovereign mind means that you have established absolute authority over your internal domain. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are no longer rebellious subjects. They are loyal servants.
In the beginning, your mind was a democracy of idiots. Every impulse got a vote. I want to eat the cake. Vote cast. I want to sleep in. Vote cast. I want to quit. Vote cast. And because the weak impulses outnumbered the disciplined ones, the mob ruled. You were governed by the loudest, most immediate desire. The sovereign mind is not a democracy. It is a monarchy. When the king decides to wake up at 5 a.m., the debate is over. The body obeys. When the king decides to focus on a task, the distraction is dismissed. The mind obeys. There is no more negotiation. There is no more maybe. There is only the decree and the execution. This might sound rigid, but it is actually the ultimate freedom. When you are no longer fighting 1,000 tiny mutinies every day, you have a massive surplus of energy. You are free to direct your power outward toward the world instead of wasting it trying to control yourself. The silence of mastery. The first thing you will notice when you achieve this state is the silence. Remember the noise of the old days, the constant chatter of anxiety, the excuses, the self-loathing, the voice that screamed, "You can't do this." As you win the war, that noise begins to fade. It fades because you have stopped feeding it. You have starved the shadow self of attention. You have proven the insecurities wrong so many times that they have nothing left to say. When you have kept your promises to yourself for a year straight, the voice that says you're a failure dies of starvation. It has no evidence to stand on. In its place comes a profound, dangerous silence.
This is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of readiness. It is the quiet of a lion watching its prey. It is the calm of the martial artist before the strike. In this silence, you can finally hear your intuition. You can hear your true purpose. You can think clearly, strategize deeply, and create effortlessly. Most people are terrified of silence because that is where their demons live. But you have killed your demons. Now, the silence is your sanctuary, the integration of the shadow. We started this journey by identifying the shadow self as the enemy. And in the beginning, it was. But the ultimate goal is not to destroy the shadow, but to integrate it. The shadow contains your darkness, yes, but it also contains your aggression, your hunger, and your primal power. If you completely castrate your dark side, you become harmless, and a harmless person cannot change the world. The sovereign mind does not reject the shadow. It harnesses it. You take that aggression and you channel it into your business. You take that hunger and you channel it into your ambition. You take that anger and you channel it into justice. You become a monster, but a monster under control. As the psychologist Jordan Peterson says, you should be a monster, and then you should learn how to control it. A weak man is not virtuous because he cannot hurt anyone. A strong man is virtuous because he could hurt everyone, but chooses not to. The sovereign has the capacity for violence, the capacity for ruthlessness, and the capacity for chaos, but keeps them on a leash. This integration makes you formidable. It gives you a weight, a gravity that others can feel. You are not just nice.
You are powerful. The responsibility of the crown. With this power comes a heavy burden. When you win the war against yourself, you lose the luxury of blaming others. You can no longer blame your parents. You can no longer blame the economy. You can no longer blame bad luck. You know too much. You know that you have the power to reshape your reality, which means that anything in your life that is not working is your fault. This is terrifying to the amateur, but to the sovereign, it is empowering. If it is my fault, I can fix it. Sovereignty means total ownership. It means you look at your bank account, your body, your relationships, and the state of your soul, and you say, I built this. All of it, the good and the bad. You stop looking for a savior. You realize that you are the one you have been waiting for. This shifts your relationship with the world. You stop asking, what can the world give me? And you start asking, what do I command the world to yield? You move from being a consumer of value to a creator of value. You stop reacting to the future and start inventing it. The legacy of the king. Why do we do this? Why do we suffer the discipline, the early mornings, the cold showers, and the psychological warfare? Is it just to have a six-pack and a Ferrari? If that is your only motivation, you will eventually quit. The toys are not enough to sustain the soul. We do this for legacy. When you win the war against yourself, you become a lighthouse for others. The world is dark. Most people are lost in the storm of their own impulses.
They are looking for someone who is standing on solid ground. By saving yourself, you inadvertently save those around you. Your children are watching. If they see a father or mother who is a slave to their phone, to food, or to anger, they will grow up to be slaves too. But if they see a sovereign, if they see someone who is in command, who keeps their word, who does hard things with a smile, they will model that. You change the lineage of your family for generations. Your friends are watching. Your employees are watching. Your community is watching. Your victory serves the collective. When you become strong, you make the world stronger. You become a pillar that others can lean on when their own wars get too heavy. This is the noble duty of the sovereign. You do not conquer the self just for your own glory. You conquer the self so that you can be of service.
You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot save the drowning if you cannot swim. The unbreakable vow. So how do we end this? We end it with a vow. The war against yourself never truly ends in the sense that the resistance disappears forever. The moment you get complacent, the moment you take off the crown and go to sleep, the weeds will start to grow back. The shadow will try to sneak back onto the throne. You must remain vigilant. But the vow you make today is that you will never again surrender. You may lose a battle here and there. You may stumble. You may bleed, but you will never again sign a peace treaty with mediocrity. You have tasted freedom. You have breathed the air of the summit. You cannot go back to the valley.
I want you to make a contract with yourself right now in the privacy of your own mind. I hereby declare that I am the ruler of this life. I will not be ruled by fear. I will not be ruled by comfort. I will not be ruled by the opinions of others. I accept the burden of my potential. I accept the pain of discipline. I commit to the infinite game. Sign it with your actions. Seal it with your consistency.